Hello. I need to start by saying it's not all down to me. The pressure is horrendous. The Academy of Creative Minds, Edgewalking, they said to me, "You follow the fairy." And I thought, that's a bit of a pressure. And then they also said to me, "You can't use a script, so that's got to go as well." But I have a few notes just in case, so I thought I'm not going completely to walk the tightrope without a net. And the talk is The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Researcher. Some of you in the audience will know a film called The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner, which was released in 1962. And in that film, the main part is a young lad, he's in his teens, called Colin Smith, who ends up in a Borstal, what we now I think call a youth detention centre. And the governor realises that actually Colin's a really, really good runner. So he asks Colin to run a race where he wants him to beat the boys from the public school up the road. The governor has something he wants to prove. I think there are three messages from that film that I want to draw out here that relate to research. The first theme is the theme of the quest, or the challenge. The idea that research is tough. We're setting out to do something to meet that challenge. The second theme is the theme of struggle, or edgewalking. The idea that we push out the boundaries and we challenge and we try to do something that we may not have done before. And the third theme is also really important, that if we're going to push the boundaries and do something different, we need somebody in authority to support us to do that. In the case of the film, of course, it's the governor. The Academy of Creative Minds, as I sort of joked at the start, has made me throw the script away, and it's pushed us all this morning out to the boundaries to do things in a different way. And so the talk I'm giving now, there's no PowerPoint, it's not a professional talk. I'm going to try and talk from a personal perspective, so there'll be some personal journey in here as well. Research is like running a marathon. It's also like climbing a mountain. Like running a marathon, it's all about the mind. It's believing that you can do this. Like climbing a mountain, we reach this point and think we've reached the summit, only to realise we're not there yet and we've further to go. First though, let me tell you a story. Let me go back to when I was 36 years old, and I'd been 15 years of asking the same question and always getting the same answer, no. It was my annual performance review with Peter. Peter Rowe was my boss. He was head of performance management in the region. We were going through organisational change yet again, and he sat with me and said, "Stuart, I've been taking the same chat with all members of the team. This is a really difficult organisational change we're going through. I want to do something for people to see if we can help them with their personal development. Is there something I can do for you?" So I asked the question again. I said, "Peter, I've always wanted to do a PhD." And he said, "Yes." So the journey began. It's tough doing a PhD alongside a job. I did mine part-time. It took 7 years. Life events happened. My third son was born. My mother got cancer and died. Stuff happens when you're doing something over the long term. It can be confusing at the beginning, messy in the middle, but gorgeous at the end when you reach the finishing line. Above all, though, it can be quite lonely doing a PhD. And that's why I lead the team. It's not about reaching the top of the tree. It never was for me. It was never about personal ambition. It was about having the ability to make a change and to make a difference for people. When we tap into that still, quiet voice within us, we can find the passion within us to do what we were here to do, to set out to achieve the changes that we want. For me, the PhD became about change. It was about the change and how tricky it can be. And that's why I lead the team with the 5 C's that you may have heard us talk about. The C of connection, of connecting people together. The C of collaboration. The C of creativity, which is what you're experiencing this morning. And above all, the C of community, of connecting people together and helping them to feel part of something bigger than themselves. And that 5th and final C, the really important one, curiosity. Curiosity is fundamental. And now we live in an age where, I hope I'm not the only one in the room, is excited about the ability to find the answer to anything. The phone in my pocket, and with that phone I can answer any question. The answer might not be right, and it might lead to other questions, but you can find those answers. And of course, research is all about questions. As I said, for me, the PhD, the questions were about change. I was particularly interested in why it is that we take organisations, we change them to solve problems, and in changing those problems, we just create more problems. So I wanted to reframe change and think about and look at how we can affect change in ways that helps people like yourselves and myself who come into the NHS to affect and improve the health of and health care of patients and the public. So why do people do PhDs? I mean, I guess there are lots and lots of reasons. For me, it goes back to that curiosity thing. I was born curious. I think we're all born curious. I've never let that go. I wanted to do something, find a space where I could play with that curiosity. A run needs preparation. Research does too. I think there were 4 main issues for me while I was doing my thesis. The first was the issue of isolation. I tackled that by ensuring I had other students I could connect with who were also part-time students. I found a few informal mentors to connect with regularly. I started a learning journal, so I was keeping a record and connecting in with where I was at with things. Secondly is the issue of lack of confidence. Doing a PhD, doing any research, I guess, is a challenge with the inner critic, with the voice within that's constantly challenging us and telling us you can't do this. You can't stand up in front of an audience like I am this morning. There's always the inner critic there working away at you, and that's something we need to overcome. Third issue is the issue of originality. Research, of course, as you all know, is about finding something unique, some unique contribution. And fourthly, focus. When I was writing up my PhD, probably one of the most challenging times, Fridge was always calling me, daytime TV, the dog needed a walk. I don't even have a dog. So like a race, often we don't know we're at the finishing line until we get there and we pass it. And the day arrived, the day of my viva. 3 people sitting with me for 2 hours while we looked across 7 years of work. Was it scary? I guess like this, it was scary until I actually was there. Once I was in the room, it was glorious to spend 2 hours with people listening to me talking about my research. Yes, it was exhilarating. And it was the one moment in your life where you sit there for 2 hours with people who actually want to know, want to talk about the thesis, and they've read it too. The only time in your life, I promise you. I've tried many times since, but 2 hours is a stretch. And I passed, of course. And then the next journey began. Let me take you back to the film. In the film, Colin doesn't win the race. He runs to the finish line, and just before the finish line, he stops. And the other boys run past him. And he turns and looks at the governor with a look of defiance, a look of free spirit. I want to suggest to you that that's what research is about. It's about having the free spirit to challenge, to push the boundaries. Mine's a personal journey. The work that I lead is about supporting people in their big quest, supporting people to be different, to edge walk. But it's always about needing someone there to support you, somebody to be with you as you walk the edges, as you challenge the status quo. You're amongst friends for the next 2 days. I want you to feel like that. Thank you very much.